But when I stepped onto that stage, where I was to be scourged, I would forget everything. I couldn't remember a thing, and I just moved forward. And then prayed to her during the queue. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional. But I felt so close to her. So close. A gust of Sirocco, the southeast wind, gently brushes the bay of San Montano. Brightened by oil lamps and the watchful eyes of 100 devotees of Santa Restituta. The beach becomes the stage for one of the most ancient and moving reenactments of the Mediterranean. The sacred representation of the Martyrdom and the landing of Saint Restituta at Ripa. There were so many people, and they were all very excited. And sometimes, some people were elbowing each other in order to get the best spot to see, to be on the right spot to get the blessing, to be in the pole position, so to speak. It was something right in between the sacred and the profane, but very, very beautiful. I work in a hotel, and I remember that we used to have many guests, even now actually, who would come specifically for the festival, because the Feast of Saint Restituta has always been a deeply felt event. We've done a great job passing that tradition on. Episode 2. A Gust of Sirocco. The tradition of the sacred representation. This is the story of a community that not only remembers, but relieves its past with a passion that goes beyond the centuries. The beach, the starry sky, the moonlight glistening, the waves crashing onto the shore. Here, where time seems to stand still, the story of a martyred saint comes to life through the voices and faces of the performers. Lilies and candles on every rocks in the sea, the bay becomes a place of light and prayer. This is more than a celebration. This is a bridge between past and present, an invitation to witness the miracle of faith and community. I am Tonia Ferrigno, and I am from Ameno, and I am proud to have been the first Saint Restituta, because before me there was only the landing of the statue. Instead, in 1978, Vincenzo Gamboni, who had studied at the Academy of Dramatic Art, decided to stage the martyrdom, then the death of Saint Restituta, and he did so by dividing the bays into two parts. Basically, on one side was Carthage, and on our side was Saint Restituta. I was blonde. I've always been a blonde. Now, I'm not a natural blonde anymore. But then I was, and they would dye my hair. Rino was also a hairstylist and would dye my hair and darken my complexion with a heavy foundation. I played Saint Restituta for 8 years. Every year, on May 16th, this tradition is repeated, and the community of Ameno gathers to honor the memory and the sacrifice of their patron saint, Saint Restituta. For us, the people of Ameno, it's a celebration. We get excited just to the thought that May brings the festival. And on May the 8th, Saint Restituta comes out. We say she comes out to go on her walk. And then the Novario begins. I also remember a lovely detail that's no longer done. Children would be dressed as little angels with small lights on their foreheads connected to a battery pack on their backs. In the evening, when Saint Restituta returned to the church, you'd see these little kids following the procession with their little lights. It was so charming, but for safety reasons, I suppose, they stopped doing it. And then there is the cutting of the red ribbons, another sweet tradition. We would all rush to grab those ribbon scraps to ask their blessed relics, something sacred. It was really beautiful. The visionary behind this extraordinary event was Don Pietro Monti, a parish priest and archaeologist, the guardian of the Church of Saint Restituta in Ameno. He was the guiding light of this magnificent reenactment. With a soul filled with devotion and a sharp intelligence for history, in 1969, Don Pietro rediscovered and brought back to life the millennia-old legend of the landing of the martyr's sacred remains on the enchanted shores of Montano Bay. Under his direction, this event became a powerful symbol of spiritual and cultural continuity, a sublime fusion of the sacred theater and history, expressing the faith and heritage of an entire community. The legacy of Don Pietro Monti lives on. Today, the Association Leripe carries the tradition forward with dedication, preserving and renewing the ancient ritual of the sacred representation.
Sono Cristina Calise e sono di Lacco Ameno.
I am Cristina Calise from Lacco Ameno. Leading this tireless effort of preservation and innovation is Cristina Calise, president of the association who, with passion and determination, helped by a team of young people, works to keep this tradition alive, retelling the story of Saint Restituta with the same dedication that inspired Don Pietro.
I've
been the president of the Cultural Association Leripe since approximately 2020. We are the group that is responsible for the sacred representation of the Martyrdom and the landing of Saint Restituta at Ripas. Every year, on May 16th, there is a historical reenactment that tells the story of a patroness. The association was founded back in 2001 thanks to Don Pietro Monti, who passed down the devotion to Santa Restituta. The association started with a group of young people who have, of course, since grown older, and in 2020 they decided to pass the baton to us, younger ones. There is a great collective involvement, where everyone plays their part and contributes to organizing the celebration of the sacred representation. This cult has endured over time not just because of the story and figure of Saint Restituta, but because of the deep bond between the people and their saint. The powerful identification with the saint makes this event epic and memorable, culminating in the final moment when everyone runs to save, or rather welcome, the saint from the sea. On the evening of the 16th, behind the huts, there are hundreds of people. It's difficult to manage, really, because there are children, babies. The oldest fisherman will be about 60, I think. But that final run represents the bond to the faith and devotion to this saint who came from the sea. The moment Lucina has to return from the boat to call the people together, it feels like a race. All these fishermen waking up little by little saying, yes, I can do it, I can make it. You see this explosive rush of fishermen who plunge into the water, grabbing the statue. The first one to get there and hold her, it's like winning a trophy or something. You'll find him outside the church later saying, I did it, I was the one who got her this year. One of the historical protagonists of the sacred representation was the director Rino Gamboni, whose son, Vincenzo, recounts the origin of his father's devotion to the saint from the sea. My father, given up for dead, dreamt of Saint Restituta.
A Santa Restituta, praticamente.
Whether it was a dream or a vision, we don't know for sure, but inexplicably, from being declared almost dead, he began to show vital signs again. He made a promise to himself as a child to one day offer the greatest gift he could to thank Saint Restituta for this miracle. And when my sister had her first communion, my father donated the palm for Saint Restituta, which is still used in the procession today. With a commitment that mixes faith and art together, Vincenzo's father turned a deeply personal miracle into a vivid theatrical expression. The story became theater, and the theater became prayer. Vincenzo's recounting takes us to the very heart of this tradition, where his father's personal story intertwines with the larger story of the festival, making each reenactment a renewed act of gratitude towards the saint who saved his life. What resonates is the incredible sense of belonging that each person has with the saint and the sacred representation.
I felt a lot of pressure, also because I was acting out the scenes of suffering and martyrdom. I was not an actress, and I was always worried I wouldn't be up to it, because, of course, you're in the eye of the storm. Everyone is watching you. But when I stepped onto that stage, where I was to be scourged, I would forget everything. I couldn't remember a thing, and I just moved forward. And then prayed to her during the queue. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional. But I felt so close to her. So close. It was all wonderful, and it saddens me to have grown older.
Beautiful Crowned Aphrodite. A journey into the stories of ofLacco Ameno. A podcast by RMS for the municipality of ofLacco Ameno. Produced by Studio A. Written by Antonello De Rosa and Pietro Censino Di Meglio. English voice and translation by Aurora Cecchi. Sound design, music and post-production by Luigi Menni Mennella. Audio supervision by Francesco Arando. Producer Pietro Censino Di Meglio.